Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Welcome to the EMEA Python Software Foundation Annual Members Meeting. My name is Marlene Mhangami, and I'm a board member and also the vice chair at the Python Software Foundation. I am joined today by two other directors. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Yannis. Hey, thanks, Kitty. I'm Yannis. I'm a board director. A director on the board of the PSF, and I'm from Leipzig in Germany. Sorry. Go ahead, Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm from Australia, and I am a communications co-chair on the Python Software Foundation as well as a board director.
Awesome. It is great to have everyone here with us. And this event, we want everyone participating in this event today to feel welcome and also to have a really enjoyable and fulfilling experience at any Python PSF event, actually. And even if it's a virtual event, we want it to be a welcoming space. So please familiarize yourself with the PSF Code of Conduct. You can find that at python.org/psf/conduct. And yeah, this event is covered underneath that, under that code of conduct. The next thing is that for the PSF, we have some updates about the PSF and some changes that are happening. And for this, I'm going to hand it over to Eva, who is our executive director, and Phyllis Dobbs, who is the PSF financial controller. And they're just going to give us a few updates.
Welcome to the Python Software Foundation Annual Members Meeting. We're so happy that you all can join us, unfortunately virtually, but if you happen to catch us at future events, we'll be happy to say hi in person. We will be having 3 of these, so it depends on whatever time zone that you're in. We're also going to be recording this, so you can catch this at an off time. There is a chat component here, so feel free to ask questions during the presentation, and we'd be happy to answer them. And we'll also have a live Q&A session at the end. So my name is Eva. I'm the executive director of the PSF, and I will be passing this along to others throughout the meeting, but I wanted to give you an update on the PSF's programs as they are this year. So PyCon US 2021, which is always our largest program, at least in terms of how much time and effort it takes to put on, is happening virtually right now. And registration is still open, so feel free to, if you are interested, to hop out to us.pycon.org to register. If you are not able to make it for whatever reason, every talk and tutorial will be available on YouTube after the event for those that can't attend. And we do hope to see you in Salt Lake City in future years, because that is where we'll be booked. Fingers crossed for 2022 and 2023. So the PSF's grants program was paused for a brief moment in 2020, but at the end of the summer, we were able to relaunch it, at least to focus on virtual events, sprints, and outreach. We will reassess funding in-person events after this summer, but for now, we're going to focus on virtual events. To find out more about the program and our criteria for applying, as well as the link to apply, please go to bit.ly/PSF-grants. So on to new and exciting news. In March, the PSF hired its first ever director of development, and we're super excited to have Morgan part of the team. I'm sure you'll see her at virtual events this year and in-person events coming in the near future, hopefully. Morgan was hired to spearhead our fundraising efforts, and that takes the shape of either sponsorship, donation drives, membership drives, grants, etc. Be sure to say hi to her when you see her. And we're really excited about the CPython support that the PSF has been able to step up and kind of fill that role this year, thanks to the support of Google for the financial grant that Phyllis Dobbs will talk about later on today. So the PSF did launch its call for resumes to hire a developer in residence to support CPython, and it's been a long time coming, and we're super excited about it. So the tasks that this person will help us fulfill includes addressing PR and issue backlogs, as well as gathering data points from existing sources and surveys that they're going to run to determine priorities and really help the steering council create kind of like a roadmap for CPython for at least the coming years. And similarly, a similar role is in the process for the Python packaging ecosystem. PSF is in the process of finalizing this new position, and I do hope that by the time this video airs that we will be doing call for resumes, but this role will help the PSF manage packaging grants for fundable work, as well as surveying community and corporate stakeholders to help prioritize and work with existing members to create a sustainable path forward, so also kind of a roadmap approach. And we're really thankful to Bloomberg for financially supporting this role for 2 years. We couldn't have done it without their help. And we have some new fiscal sponsorees that have joined the PSF recently. And you might be asking, what is a fiscal sponsoree? So one of the large programs that the PSF provides to the Python community is fiscal sponsorship. And through this program, we help support Python projects or groups to receive financial, legal, and other support from the PSF. The PSF has added 3 new projects to its fiscal sponsorship program recently, and that brings us to a total of 13. So we welcome PyPA, Jazz Band, and PyRVA to the team. And we're also in the process of strengthening our relationship with the PyLadies fiscal sponsorship project as well. Did I just skip a slide? I did, sorry about that. If you are not yet a member of the PSF, we urge you to sign up today. We published a recent blog explaining what each membership level is and the links on how to sign up for each of them. And that's included here in this bit.ly link, bit.ly/PSF-MEM. And of course, if you would like to ask a question outside of this event, don't hesitate to contact our staff at any point in time. Our email address, which comes to the whole group, is psf-staff@python.org, or feel free to ping us on Twitter at any point in time. My Twitter handle is here, as well as the PSF General Twitter handle as well. And now I'd like to toss it over to Phyllis Dobbs, who is the PSF's financial controller, and she's going to walk you through our 2020 financials.
I'm Phyllis Dobbs, and I'm going to go over the performance for 2020 with you. And what I'm going to do is start off with net income. You'll see that our first item there of revenue, program service revenue, it was down 2.2 million, but that is basically due to the cancellation of our in-person PyCon US. So, but we did also offset that revenue loss by reducing expenses $1.8 million in program service. But in good news, despite the pandemic, we had really strong contributions, membership dues, and grants, including a sizable Google grant that we received in December of 2020. So you'll see we are actually up in that line item in revenue. So overall, our net income was $579,000 for the year, and that is the result of the community's donations and of tickets and sponsorships, so that generosity has made a financial impact to the PSF, and it lets us keep moving on with our programming. What I'd like to do is then expand a little bit on our program expenses for last year, and this is our largest item. You'll see that this year the packaging work group is the largest item at 48%. Now usually PyCon is much larger. It's only came in at about 20% for last year, again due to the cancellation. Typically it's about 3/4 of our total program expenses. And then other than that, we had about 15% on grants. As Eva mentioned, we had paused the program when during the pandemic. And so we didn't spend as much as usual on that particular program. And then our fiscal sponsorees were about 16%, again, a bit quieter in 2020. So next, I'm going to move along to our balance sheet and talk about our performance there. So we are ending the year with about $3.7 million in cash, and that is our largest asset. We always have some accounts receivable as well. You'll see it's a little over $400,000. And that's all due to sponsorships that have signed up, but we haven't yet collected the money. So then on our liability side, we have very low liabilities. They're just related to ongoing operations, and they're lower than last year due to us not having an in-person PyCon in 2020. So overall, we did really well despite the pandemic. And what I'd like to show you next is our asset trends. And you can see since 2015, we have continued an upward trajectory. We've now built up about a year and a half of operating reserves. And the exciting thing about that is that we have funds in the bank to support us during times of economic uncertainty, just like this last year. So we feel great that we can continue working on all of our programs with these savings. And then we're going to be adding in some more higher return investments to our portfolio, and that'll help us put that money to work while it's waiting for us. So that's it for the financial section. So what I'd like to do now is pass it on to Lorena Mesa to give us an update on the PSF bylaws.
Welcome, PSF members, to the annual PSF member meeting, and welcome to it in a virtual format. For those of you who I have not yet had the opportunity to get to know, I would love to give a quick introduction. My name is Lorena Mesa, and I am the current chairperson of the Python Software Foundation. My pronouns are she, her. And as we all know, it's been from May 2020 to now a year of many firsts, including our first virtual PyCons, as well as our first virtual PSF members meetings. That is these meetings, at least. This past year also, the PSF Board of Directors kicked off a discussion on our PSF Discuss page, soliciting your feedback on board election reform. We were so thankful to have received so much useful and meaningful input, particularly on the continued need to invest in diversity and inclusion efforts as it relates to the PSF's mandate to, quote, support and facilitate the growth of a diverse and international community of Python programmers. Earlier this month, Eva sent an announcement to the PSF-Vote mailing list detailing the bylaw changes that are going to be introduced for this year's member vote, including adding section 5.15 to limit co-affiliation on board members, and second, modifying section 4.8 on PSF fellows. Let me detail a little bit more on the motivation behind these changes. Firstly, on the motivation for the bylaw change on section 5.15 to add a limit to the board members' co-affiliations. Like many of us in the Python community, we may happen to share employers or have affiliations with organizations that are really in support and love working with the Python community. Our motivation for this limit is to help us promote the quality of director service to the community, as well as to limit the unlikely chance that any single entity could gain a majority control over the PSF. In short, this change is meant to safeguard the integrity of the PSF. Now, in regards to the second change, the addition of the language to permit the Fellows Workgroup to be fully empowered to handle the approval of fellows is mainly born from the preference of the board to permit the fellows who are the actual members of the work group to themselves own this process. It stands that the fellows have the proper expertise and oversight to own this process. So while these are the only two bylaw changes for vote during this year's upcoming election, there are actually two other issues that the board has actively been in discussion on, including term limits for directors and appointed directors. The feedback we received last June was laid out very compelling arguments for both of these topics, and the board has been deeply invested in these issues. With the ever-evolving nature of the PSF, though, we, the board, have been very thoughtful in our discussions about how these changes would work and how that would in turn impact the PSF's mandate and the overall vision of the PSF. We are actively continuing to work on these discussions, and we welcome any and all feedback on these topics should you wish to engage in them. I look forward to participating in lively discussion with you all if I'm in a PSF member meeting with you. However, if that doesn't happen or we need to continue the conversation after the fact, please do reach out. You can reach me at lorena@python.org, or you can reach the entire board at psf-board@python.org. In short, I want to sign off and say to you all to live long, Python, and Prosper, y'all. I'm really excited to be here, or at least virtually in a remote context, to be with you at some of these members meetings. And I look forward to having some good discussion with you all.
Great. We are back. And just to reiterate what Lorena just said, as well as electing new board members this year on the ballot, there will be updates to the bylaws that members can also vote on this year. For existing PSF members, you can find full details of the changes in your email under the subject PSF Board Proposed Bylaws Changes. And for people who are not members, for all members, at the time of the election, you can find those on the membership ballot as well. So the next thing we want to discuss is the upcoming PSF board director elections. And so there's going to be just a brief summary. The board is electing new directors to join the board this year, and these elections are coming up very soon. To help people who are interested in either running for the board or getting to know more about what board directors do, we've created a very nice sort of job description that you can find at the link on the screen. And you can find it also at Python Discuss website. And basically, a board member works to protect the PSF's mission. Also, a board member attends PSF meetings and is involved in Slack discussions. And board members also actively volunteer, whether that's in different committees or in work groups. We also help towards planning and different evaluations. And then finally, board directors also get involved with fundraising initiatives that the board is taking on. In line with this, there are 3 open board positions this year. We are sadly not going to be, Katie will not be with us next year, but there are definitely some positions open, and the nominations are open now until May 31st, anywhere on Earth. So please go ahead and nominate someone if you know someone who would be a good candidate, and voting will open shortly after that. And voting is open to members only. The next thing is about becoming a member of the PSF. Does any one of my co-hosts want to discuss this section? Maybe Katie?
I can if you'd like.
Sure.
Let me
Yeah.
find the notes for this bit. If you want to go to the next slide.
Sure.
Here we go.
Right.
There are many different membership levels for the PSF, and it can be a bit confusing at times, but hopefully this slide simplifies it. If you want to read a blog post about what all these different levels mean in detail, you can go to bit.ly/PSF-mem, so PSF membership. The basic membership level is free. Anyone can join, but that membership level does not give you voting rights. So you would not be allowed to vote in the election. You can still nominate to be a board member as a basic member, but you just can't vote on any of the nominations. The 3 voting member levels, supporting member, where if you make an annual donation from $99 USD, you can be a supporting member of the PSF, and that greatly helps fund all the things that the PSF do. You can also self-certify that you are a contributing or managing member, which means that you donate 5 hours or more a month to Python projects, events, or sub-organizations or organizations. And that's all via a self-certification process. Like, we trust you. If you say that you do 5 hours of Python, welcome on board. And then there's fellowship, which you can self-nominate or have someone nominate for you, which you will make you become a PSF fellow, which is a very prestigious title, and that also gets you voting rights. So they're the different membership levels. Marlene, Giannis, did you want to add anything to that part?
No, thank you.
No.
Thank you, Katie. I think that was, yes, that's correct. And there's also the basic membership, which is free to join, and you can sign up to be a basic member right away if you would like to as well. Thank you, Katie. And then if you would like to sign up, you can go ahead and sign up at the link on the screen at python.org. The next thing is the PSF is also about to kick off our May 2021 fundraiser. And if you are come on board as a supporting member, there are lots of really exciting things that come along with this fundraiser. The PSF fundraises money to be able to support the community and give to grants, and also support things like Python packaging. And so it's really important that that people get involved in fundraising. And some really exciting things this year in terms of also incentive to give to the fundraiser is that if you do become a supporting member in May, you'll be able to get a free t-shirt, limited edition Python t-shirt. And this can be shipped anywhere on Earth, with the exception of sanctioned countries. So it cannot be shipped to me, but it can be shipped in different places around the Earth. So definitely encourage you to get a t-shirt. These are, as you can see, the lovely t-shirts are on our screen right now. And so really encouraging you to become a supporting member in the month of May. And finally, we will have some time for question and answer. If you have any questions, please go ahead and pop them in the chat, and our panel here will answer those questions. Does anyone have a question?
We have one so far. This one. As a new contributing member, I will be participating in my first vote, but I have no idea who the candidates are or what they propose. Is there a central place where I can find out about the candidates and their program? Yes, there is. The nominations for board of directors are currently hidden, and when the nominations close, then everyone's supporting statements will be open and you can read them and vote on them. So for now, quiet, shh. But once voting is open, all the information will be on the ballots, including the full text of the bylaw changes that Lorena mentioned earlier.
Yes. Does anyone else have any other questions? We have some other questions. Some more time for questions.
How about I ask you a question?
Yes.
Sure.
What's your day-to-day like as a board member, Giannis?
My day-to-day as a board member. So generally speaking, I mean, I can probably read off the job description, and many of the items that we collected there are true for our individual roles. Even though I feel like, having been now 2 years on the board, I noticed that we have individual, like our own niches that we like to work on. So in particular, for example, I'm in a couple of working groups and committees. So I'm in the finance committee, for example. So meeting once a quarter, reviewing the finance statements, chatting on Slack most of the time, dealing with like urgent matters that the staff of the PSF is working on. But outside of that, of course, as you may or may not know, there are the working groups that also have many non-PSF members inside, which are basically groups of people dealing with a specific topic. And those working groups are usually just like creating a ton of emails and to read through. It's it's very it's a lot of things that I call like comms, like communication work, just making sure that everything is okay and that we can help the PSF staff. Yeah. How about you? I mean, what's your? I mean, I'm curious. What's it like for you, Marlene?
Oh, for me?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's very similar to what you just described. I would say that it is a lot of communication and sharing thoughts on different issues in the Python community, either on Slack or email. And also for me, I'm part of a work group as well. So I'm also meeting with my work group and organizing a few things with the work group. But that doesn't necessarily come with being a board director. You don't necessarily have to be in a work group. So yeah, I would say that it's definitely self-paced. So that's very nice. You can kind of figure it out as you go along, which is really nice.
Yeah,
I am seeing another question. Can basic members take part in volunteering in any PSF event or activity? Would anyone like to answer that question, or should I go ahead and answer?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, yeah. So you, as a basic member, you are anyone, even if you're not a member actually of the PSF, you can participate in volunteering for any events or activities. We're always looking for volunteers. Even this year, I know a number of people that have volunteered to make this conference happen. And there are lots of other places as well to volunteer. Do you have to be, this is also a question that I'm not sure about, but do you have to be like a volunteer, a PSF member to be in a work group? You might have to be for that. No, you don't? Okay.
Good
I know
question.
you have to be a basic member for director nomination, but that's really simple. I think it's more just like the basic membership is free, and all it is just like you will represent, like you want to be part of this organization and you want to abide by the code of conduct. So I think that like if you were to apply for a working group, that pretty much comes with it. I'd have to actually check the working group bylaws to check if it's a requirement.
Yeah, isn't it part of usually the charter of those individual working groups that they specify how the nomination process or the membership process of that working group works? So yeah, good question.
Yeah.
I can't really answer either.
But yeah, for conferences, events, activities, meetups, you do not have to be a member. We greatly encourage it because we like to be able to, like, you know, keep you up to date with what the PSF is doing, all that kind of fun, let you know about our fundraisers. But you can absolutely attend and help out without being a basic member. Here's a question. How long is the director position? 3 years. That's why there are only 3 positions open this year, but there are 11 directors. So we have a rotating schedule where 3 directors have finished up their 3 years. So it's myself and 2 other directors. And then everyone else is either going to step into their 2nd year or step into their 3rd year. So it allows us to make sure that we have shared institutional knowledge around the directors, and we have that sort of rolling update of fresh faces.
Do you have another question as well?
Yeah.
So
but
yeah. Are there
Question.
other plans? So Sebastian is asking, are there other plans to continue virtual PyCon activities even when the event goes back to being in person? This is really interesting because I had a conversation with another director yesterday about how, so at the PSF booth, lots of people from different parts of the world were visiting the booth, and we were having great conversation at the PSF booth. And I was talking to another director, and lots of people mentioned that if they weren't able to, if it wasn't online, they wouldn't have been able to attend the conference. And I think it's a great idea if we would be able to continue to have some form of virtual part of the conference. when it is even in person. But it is a lot of work. So I don't know. I'm not committing the PSF to doing that, but I do think it's something that we can discuss probably. I don't know, Katie and Giannis, do you know?
I mean, let me just say that I'm definitely a fan simply because of the lower barrier to participate. I mean, it's definitely different for sure. We've, I think, made all the experience in the past year attending virtual conferences and not just running them right now, but it's. I would suggest that if the PSF's intention is to reach as many community members as possible, that implies, I think, to use those new technologies and new platforms that have sprung up over the past year. And my hope is that it's just getting easier the longer you're conducting conferences like this. And to be frank, I think we haven't really seen the end of that pandemic yet. So I don't think we can just say it's going to be fine at the next iteration. So, well, anyways, I'm a fan. It's easier to do this from home, frankly, and I we miss each other terribly, of course. And it's a whole different story to be in the hallway and and meet people. But yeah, so how about you, Katie? You're a pro in that.
I'm running a virtual event in September. PyCon Australia is running as PyCon Online again in September. Our call for proposals is open now if you're interested. But one of the things we're doing this year is because Australia and New Zealand, we're some of those lucky countries where at the moment we're able to start gathering again. But the risks involved in holding a full in-person event where we would have 500, 600 people gathering in a conference center with deposits and logistics and stuff, the risks are too high for us. So what we're trying to do for our event this year is hold it online, but optimize the schedule to allow for in-person watch parties. So I saw around PyCon US today, there were a few people where it's like, wait, you're in the same video window, you're hanging out together, that's cool. We want to try to optimize for that, which hopefully can allow the people who feel confident enough and want to go to their local suburb or city gatherings to be able to participate in PyCon Online like that. But as for like PyCon itself, so how all this works for people that aren't aware, there's the PSF, which is the fiscal sponsor for a whole bunch of things, and PyCon US is one of those. PyCon US has announced that they are planning to run in person next year. Whether there are any virtual events around that, I don't know, because there is a specific PyCon chair who is in charge of all that. But the regional PyCon events, PyCon APAC, Kiwi PyCon, there was a list of Python events shared from the PyCon US Twitter account yesterday European time that included some of them were running in person, some of them were running virtually, some of them are running hybrid as well, so having both in person and virtual. I mean, if you want your local event to keep having a virtual element, let the organizers know, because if I don't get told that people want this, then I can't provide it. So that's a very good question. And yes, there are parts of the world that are in the future, not just time zones, but getting a hold on everything, which is fun but also sad at the same time. We have
True.
more questions.
Do you have more questions?
Yeah.
So Matteo, should we answer that? Hi, Matteo from Italy. I know, Matteo, I met you at PyCon Italy. It's great to see you here. And Matteo is asking, with the incoming future of hybrid events, what about helping the local worldwide groups or communities sharing common resources, maybe useful web apps? I think that's a great idea. And I think that's, that's something we, so I mentioned earlier that I am part of the diversity and inclusion work group. And something we are trying to do is we are, number one, trying to connect more with with community leaders across the globe, and figure out how we can better serve their specific communities. We're also trying to figure out what are some of the resources. So we don't want to just put resources together for them that they don't necessarily want. So we are trying to first kind of gather some information from them. But I think once we do, I think a web app, like web apps, or I don't know, I think something that we can have as like a common go-to for resources for Python communities would be fantastic. So I think that's a great idea. And I think it's something we are trying to work on as the PSF and also the Diversity and Inclusion Work Group as well. Giannis or Katie, do you have any other thoughts on that?
I totally agree what you said. I think there's an incredible opportunity here to help more communities out there, I think, to kind of work in this new state of affairs. I think the similarly how we have helped other communities in the past with our Meetup Pro group, for example, where we helped those to set up local meetups. I think it makes total sense to find ways to adapt to that new situation. The way and the shape and form how this works, that's something that I think would need to be done. I don't know, make it maybe a good idea for a new working group, like in this area. I don't know. It's but I like the idea in general.
So we have a question here from Vicky. I donated $99 as a supporting member, even though I'm a fellow. Thank you. You didn't have to, but thank you. But not fundraiser. Is there a way for me to buy the shirt, or do I have to donate another $99? So as part of the fundraiser, there is a specific contribution type. Like in the month of May, if you do the $99 thing, so you either renew or sign up as a supporting member, the link that I just dropped in chat, which I will promote on the screen as soon as it comes up, has a link there about which t-shirt do you want. So it's part of the specific May supporting member things. And as soon as it comes up, I will put it on screen. But things are being slow right now. It's fine. But yes, for people on YouTube, there's a chat. If you search PSF Q2 2021 fundraiser, it'll be in there. Please keep your questions coming. Otherwise, I'm going to surprise my co-hosts with new questions.
They've been great questions so far. Thank you for this.
I think because I posted a link, it won't come up because it thinks I'm spam. That's fine. I'll make sure that there's a link in the slides, and I'll make sure that the slides go up onto Meetup so everyone can get all the links from the slides that Marlene presented earlier. Here's a question. What new initiatives has the PSF been taking on?
Oh, Sebastian is also saying there are more questions in the Slack. But what new initiatives has the PSF been taking on? I know there are bylaw changes. That's a big initiative, I guess. Which specific initiatives? I'm trying to remember. Definitely the Diversity and Inclusion Work Group is fairly new. And there's going to be, at PyCon, there's going to be a panel session about that later today. I am trying to think what other initiatives we have been taking on. Honest, Katie, what other initiatives?
We have done we've changed up how sponsorship works for large companies with the refactoring of how company sponsorship gets to go into the different PSF projects. And there's now new levels for sponsorship. So if you follow us on the Python Software Foundation blog, you may have seen that Google and Microsoft are visionary sponsors now, which means that for very big companies, if they want. They can choose what inclusions and what add-ons and stuff they want to get out of their sponsorship at the PSF. And that one has been a lot of work by staff and board and working groups over a very long time. So the fact that that's now here is great. And also the developer in residence and the packaging work group program manager, those two paid positions are big things, because we like our very, very important volunteers and stuff to get paid for their work. I mean, volunteers are wonderful. We love them so much. We can't pay everyone unless we get all the sponsorship in the world. So sponsor today.
That would be nice. If anyone can sponsor us more money, that would be fantastic, so we can pay more people. Definitely.
Okay, so I've copied the questions from Slack, and I've specifically not put in names because they aren't on the YouTube, and I do not want to share names or aliases without their consent. So this question comes from the Slack. In the PSF, is there attention related to linguistic diversity?
Linguistic diversity.
I mean, it's obviously, like, English is definitely the lingua franca of the PSF. You know, as a US nonprofit, that's a big requirement, of course. I would say that there's a big drive, though, to support the Spanish-speaking community there, and obviously we have, we're reaching continuously out to the many different local communities that speak don't speak English as their first language. I know that the person who asked that question also had a little bit more of a longer conversation going on with regard to that due to his membership in a local community. So I think that's me coming also from a non-English speaking community, I can feel for that question. I really am. And I would say that personally, I would hope that we can improve that situation in the future, where we can improve like the relationship between local communities, where obviously English is not the language spoken first. And so in particular, I think I'm a big supporter of the translating documentations, whether it's the Python documentation or individual project documentations. That's a big that's a big help to onboard new people in their native tongue without having to kind of throw them in the water of having to know the very technical terms in English right away. That's at least my own experience, and I can relate to that. How about you, Marlene? How you feel about this?
I definitely agree with you. I think translating documentation is something that I think there was work being done on that some time ago, maybe like a year ago or something. I remember seeing a couple of sprints as well for translating documentation as something that we want to do. And I think that as well, the more we interact with people from more non-English speaking countries, the more we get a better sense of how the PSF can better serve those areas. And if that is linguistically, what are the best ways that we can support non-English speaking countries. So definitely, like I said, I've been talking about the diversity and inclusion group a lot, but we do have like global representation, and we are communicating, we are just now getting started, but we are wanting to do more and connect with even non-English speaking countries and figure out how we can serve those communities better. So any feedback as well is definitely appreciated.
Yep, and for the PSF, we do have a Twitter, the PSF on Twitter. We really would love to hear all the suggestions and everything that you want. None of our staff could be on this particular meetup, but we will absolutely be passing on all the questions that we've had to them, and particularly around directors. We are encouraging Latin America, Africa, Asia Pacific, we want geographic representation as well as inherently linguistic representation on our board of directors. I believe if I step down, it'll only be, we'll have Marlene, and then the rest is going to be currently Europe and the US. So it would be really great if we had more geographic and linguistic representation on the PSF side. But yeah, we do know that it is more than just translating docs, but translating docs is a big thing in itself. I'm looking up the Transifex documentation portal right now to see the Python documentation language translation coverage. And we are getting there in Japanese, Chinese, Portuguese, Brazilian, some Indonesian and Korean and Polish translations as well. So there's some really interesting stats. But yes,
Yeah.
we would love to be able to do more in that.
Yeah, we have, I definitely can recommend to take a look at some of the Python projects out there. Like I know that Django has made great progress in that area as well, where maybe the PSF can find expertise and find local people to work on this as well.
So I'll grab one of the more recent questions and then go back to some of these Slack ones. Joining DEI working groups, Marlene, I pulled this one up because I think you mentioned that this was one of your working groups. Did you want to update Vicky live?
Sure. Thanks, Vicky. For the question, I do know that you applied, and we are, this quarter is when we are going to be reviewing applications from people who applied to be part of the work group. So you will hear back by the end of the quarter. You definitely will hear back. I'm sorry, it has just been a little bit of a slower process because we're getting started and trying to find sort of our bearings and what we want to do. So it has been a bit slow, and I apologize for that. But this quarter, you will hear back from me, from the group at least. Yes, definitely. Thank you for that question. Yep.
And Giannis, we have a question for you from the Slack. Could you please say something about the new PSF Jazz Band fiscal sponsorship thingy?
Yeah, for sure. So just to frame that question, what the fiscal sponsorship is, the PSF can act as a US nonprofit, as a kind of an umbrella for some mission-related projects, such as, like, for example, the Pellets project that is maintaining Flask and Jinja 2 and a bunch of other high-profile Python projects, is a fiscal sponsored project. That means they can get funding and are tax exempt through the status of the PSF in the US. And so what here is happening basically that I, outside of my work on the board of directors, have a couple of years ago created another very similar project to, it's called Jazz Band, quote unquote, that deals with that tries to solve a bunch of the problems of Python projects that have issues with long-term maintenance, basically making sure that those projects can be handed over from the original authors to the next generation, so to say. So I recently applied for that project, for that sponsorship program, so that the Jazz Band project can receive funding for people, because I've gotten requests for people that they want to donate to this. I have to say, though, that I just double-checked on the email thread that we still, I think there's a slight mistake, that the board of directors still need to vote on this at the next board meeting. So it's not just finished. I think, surprise, it's not official just yet. And frankly, there's obviously, I need, as a board of director on the board, I need to kind of abstain from that vote as well, obviously, because I'm also the applicant here. So that's, but that's also one way I think we can highlight as a great way for the PSF to support the community, especially projects that have shown the need to grow to a certain point where they require funding to continue their work. The PSF can help there as an umbrella. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Don't tell anyone. Psst. because it's not official. Yep. Do we have other questions right now?
I do see one from Matteo about
Oh yeah,
with accessibility. Matteo says about inclusion, there's a huge accessibility problem on the web. It'd surely help giving guidelines about how to handle the issue with a list of useful resources to the global or local Python community. That's definitely something I think would be helpful. I know some people who are particularly passionate about accessibility and very knowledgeable about it. I would say for myself personally, I am not super knowledgeable about it, but it is something that I'm learning a lot more about. But definitely, if you have suggestions on things we could do to help with accessibility, please share them. I think a list of resources would be fantastic to be able to just raise awareness of what communities can do. But yeah, would love feedback on that. Do any of you, maybe Katie or Giannis, do you have experience with accessibility?
I do have some, basically as part of my former job at Mozilla, where obviously like the web and accessibility was a key part of their work and kind of pushing forward the open web platform. I would say that it's definitely not so far has not been the focus of the PSF. Maybe that's a blind spot. I agree. The more we are using the web to reach out to community members, yeah, the more we have to figure out ways to have to include everyone in that, especially. I mean, I know that there are many resources out there, so it's probably just a matter of collecting them and putting in a place where we can find them in the documentation or in the wiki on the PSF side.
Yeah, I will also say that as part of the diversity and inclusion work group, initially we are starting with focusing on sort of inclusion and diversity for in terms of geography, because there are so many parts or involved when it comes to diversity and inclusion that it can feel overwhelming. And it's difficult to figure out where to start. But we decided we're going to start with geography and then expand as we go along. And I think accessibility is a part of that as well, and hopefully will be something.
Yeah, I want to really want to stress that point that Marlene said, that starting that work, obviously is a formalization of many of the threads that we've done over the past years, kind of leading up to that point. So this is a great opportunity to bring your ideas and topics in to figure out ways forward in that. So I really appreciate you bringing this up, because those different type of threads to create a more inclusive community, the more the merrier, frankly. And then we can sort it out and can find places where we can, document them or, discuss them. Yeah, I would rather kind of not miss out on those topics. Thanks for raising it.
So we have a couple of minutes left, and I worked out how to drive StreamYard. So how do I enter the election?
Well
Good question. Here is the nomination link from earlier.
Exactly.
Nomination/elections. And then how do I become a member for the fundraiser? There you go. And if you search May Q2 2021 fundraiser PSF, that'll come up as well. And I will make sure that the deck with all these links and stuff is shared on the meetup page for each of the events that we've run. This is the third member meeting we've run in 20 hours.
Yeah.
Today.
There've been a lot. But yes, I also just wanted to reiterate about the nomination page that I mentioned it in the slides, and Katie brought up the link as well. But just encouraging everyone from our region, the EMEA region, to, if you are interested, please do run, please nominate yourself or go and ask someone who you think could be a good candidate to nominate themselves. I think we really need representation from Africa, from Asia Pacific, from Europe as well. I think Giannis will be the only one from Europe. Oh no, that's not true. That's not true.
What about, is Thomas still there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thomas will be around for 2
I
years.
think we're full in Europe already.
Yeah, but if Katie goes, Australia is out. So I mean, Asia, like the Pacific, is out. So I think we need to. It would be great to see more people running this year. So please definitely nominate yourself or nominate someone you know. Yeah.
Fully agreed.
Last call. We can probably take 1 or 2 more, and then we're at the end of the hour. Otherwise, I'll just randomly ask questions.
We need to think of questions for you, Katie. I feel like we've been.
Come on.
I don't even know. I honestly don't have. I don't know. Does anyone else have questions for us? For Katie specifically?
Yes, ask me.
Question.
I can't think of a good one now, to be honest.
I can't think of a good one either. But I don't know. Maybe... Oh, there we go. Here's the question.
I'd like to thank everyone.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's appreciated.
I have one in the queue here. What's it like being a director? Well, you get to host wonderful PSF member meetings just like this one. Being a director is really great. Like, even though time zones are a thing, the PSF staff have been really accommodating, and we at the moment this year have alternating meetings. So some of the meetings are at midnight for me, some of them are at 8 a.m. And the board is really open to, if you need to send your apologies for a meeting, you don't have to attend the ones that are in the middle of the night if you need to. But it's super interesting being a director, because it's like, wait, Python has directors? But like when I mentioned I'm a PSF director, see the PSF has directors, or wait, how much volunteering do you do, Katie? I get that one a lot. But it's really great because I can use the knowledge and experience that I had coming into the PSF to help out a lot. Like I'd run local events, and I've been a public speaker for many years, and I've been able to bring that knowledge about how to help support communities and organizations with like why sponsorship is a good thing and how to run inclusive events and all that kind of stuff. So it's great. Here's a question. How much of your weekly life do you give to the PSF?
All of it. I'm joking.
I mean, we have an asynchronous Slack. There are email votes. There's our monthly 1-hour meeting. So it depends on how much time you can dedicate and how many working groups you're in. As part of the job description, it was anticipated, and it's part of the job description, that you will serve the basic board director role, and then you also volunteer your time for more things that it comes up. I think myself, I'd maybe say 2 or 3 hours on just PSF stuff, but a whole lot of that stuff blends into PyCon Australia stuff or PyCon stuff and all together. But on average, maybe 2 or 3 hours a week, but sometimes that goes up, sometimes that goes down.
I think that's the same for me.
That's pretty accurate.
The job description says 5 hours a month on average, but I would say that's definitely like lowballing it simply because many of the people that nominate themselves or are nominated are doing other volunteer work. So it's not a requirement, obviously. It's take a definitely look at the job description that we are we put together, and we put a lot of thought into it based on our own experiences and what we think will make sense for the board. Yeah.
And I will say as well, thank you, Vicky. I'm seeing a comment there. Appreciate that. But I will say as well that it's also really nice. Oh, it's about to.
Oh, sorry.
But
there you go.
Thank you. Thanks, Vicky. But I did want to say as well that it also depends like on your own life as well. Like if there are times where it's really like a stressful period for you or something like that, you can pull back a bit and do this. But if it's a time where you have more time to be able to do volunteer work, then I think many people have said that a lot of it depends, like it's self-paced, so it depends on what you are able to do as well. But there is like a minimum requirement, but that's maybe 2 to 3 hours a week or something. Yeah. Okay.
Python Software Foundation said thank you everyone for watching because it's the top of the hour, so we are done.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
We will see you around PyCon US if you are attending. If not, we hope to see you at one of these member meetings in the future, or at regional PyCons around the world, whether they be virtual or in person. But it was lovely to host you all, and we'll all see you later.
Bye. See you.
Bye.